Coming up on Network Africa, M23 rebels refuse to disarm in DR Congo conflict, demand to speak to government representatives. Burkina Faso declares general mobilization in fight against terrorism. And Tunisian officials report at least 25 people dead after Sfax boat wreck. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We start off in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where the M23 rebel group has refused to disarm or demobilize as long as there's no direct political dialogue with the government in Kinshasa. A rebel spokesman, Lawrence Kanyuka, issued the statement on Twitter after the Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said there would be no political negotiations with the rebels. The president had pointed out that under an agreement negotiated by regional states, the M23 rebels are expected to demobilize before returning to civilian life. Under the brokered peace deal, the group has been withdrawing from areas it had previously captured. Authorities in Burkina Faso have declared a general mobilization to give the state all necessary support to combat terrorism in the country. A statement from the presidency says the goal is to create a legal framework for all the actions to be taken against the insurgents. Burkina Faso's transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has set a goal of recapturing 40% of the country's territory, which is affected by jihadists affiliated with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. Details of the plan were not disclosed, though a security source said it will include a state of emergency for the affected territories. The government announced a plan in February to recruit 5,000 additional soldiers to fight the insurgency in the Sahel. Last week, 44 civilians were reportedly killed by armed terrorist groups in 2 villages in northeastern Burkina Faso near the border with Niger. 25 people are now known to have died in Tunisia after their boat was wrecked off the port city of Sfax on Wednesday. Tunisian authorities say that of the 110 passengers on board, 72 were rescued, but many are still missing. They were all from sub-Saharan Africa. Tunisia has taken over from Libya as the main departure point for people fleeing poverty and conflict in Africa and the Middle East. The Tunisian National Guard says 14,000 migrants have been rescued in the first 3 months of this year, 5 times more than in the same period last year. Meanwhile, it's been 3 days since 17 people, including 3 children, went missing after their boat capsized in the river in central Malawi. They were crossing the Rasa River on their way to a funeral ceremony in Mchinji districts where the incident occurred. 5 people managed to swim ashore and 5 bodies were later recovered. According to a local police commander, John Nkoma, the boat was too small for the number of passengers it was carrying. Authorities in the district are advising residents to avoid boat rides in flooded rivers. Let's speak to Malawian journalist Christy Gomani. Christy joins us live from Blantyre, Malawi. Hello, Christy. So give us an update on the situation. Has the government put out any official statement about the incident and perhaps what it's doing in the aftermath of the tragedy? We'll come back to Christy in just a moment. Let's move on to some other stories. Zimbabwe's main opposition party says it's expecting Nelson Chamisa to contest for a second time against Emerson Mnangagwa in presidential elections. The Citizens Coalition for Change said Mr. Chamisa, who's a lawyer and a Christian minister, is the only nominee that would be vetted before being formally announced as a candidate. The party has accused the governing ZANU-PF party of carrying out a crackdown on its political opponents ahead of the election, which is due in August. Some opposition campaign rallies have been banned by the police. Last week, Mr. Chamisa accused the government of weaponizing the law and unjustly incarcerating a CCC lawmaker, Job Sikala, who has been in prison since June after being accused of publishing falsehoods. And over in Morocco, the Rabat Court of Appeal has increased the sentences of 3 men accused of raping an 11-year-old girl. The new conviction against the 3 defendants who had pleaded not guilty came as a relief to the victim's legal team, who appealed the original judgment, which seemed too lenient. A lower court initially sentenced the one attacker to 2 years and 2 others to 18 months each. The latest judgment hands sentences of 20 years for one and 10 years for 2 others. Lawyers to the plaintiff are still not satisfied and say the new sentences are not enough and intend to appeal one more time. The Central African Republic is a major area where UN peacekeeping forces are trying to keep order. Painting a picture of the work by troops at a press conference in New York, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says that the UN is continuing to build confidence in the peace process and to respond to the needs of communities through tailored initiatives.
Moving on to the Central African Republic, our peacekeeping mission there, MINUSCA, is continuing its work to build confidence in the peace process and to respond to the needs of communities through tailored initiatives. Yesterday, the mission launched the rehabilitation of the High Court building in Birao in the Vakaga prefecture. This was done in partnership with local authorities and NGOs. It is a part of a broader effort to rebuild national capacity to fight impunity. Earlier in April, in Bambari, in Ouaka Prefecture, peacekeepers conducted disarmament and demobilization, targeting about 150 combatants. The mission covered more than 38,000 kilometers while patrolling the country last week and carried out 17 aerial surveillance and reconnaissance missions in areas difficult to access by ground troops. Turning to South Sudan, peacekeeping mission there is working with local authorities to reduce tensions and ensure the safety of humanitarian staff and assets in response to fighting between youth in Akilo village in Pribor. Yesterday, the peacekeepers conducted an assessment mission in Kodok in Upper Nile State following violence between armed groups and in the last quarter of 2022 with recent clashes between youth. The mission confirms that the security situation is now reportedly calm, enabling people to move freely towards neighboring areas in Manyo, Melut, and Baliat counties.
Ahead of October's presidential and legislative elections, Liberia's Supreme Court has dismissed the opposition's request to halt the ongoing nationwide voter registration. The collaborating political parties claimed listing voters without first demarcating constituencies according to the recent national census was unconstitutional. But in a unanimous verdict, the court said it saw no basis for disturbing the voters' registration exercise since the National Elections Commission was not in violation of the Constitution as alleged. The court ruling allows the electoral body to move ahead with Phase 2 of the voter registration exercise, having already conducted Phase 1 last month, which was overshadowed by a series of technical glitches. Liberia's population has grown by 50.4% to 5.2 million people, and the opposition fears the new numbers might be manipulated to favor President George Weah, who is facing strong challenges in his re-election bid. Well, civil society groups made their presence felt at the ongoing IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C., carrying different banners. The CSOs called on the 2 Bretton Woods institutions to show more commitment to addressing crisis-ridden areas in Africa. The roads leading to the IMF and World Bank buildings were under heavy security to prevent any breakdown of law and order. The protesters, however, went ahead chanting solidarity songs. Algeria's parliament has passed a law which further restricts press freedom in the country. The measure tightens media ownership rules and empowers courts to enforce journalists to reveal their sources. Consequent on the ruling, domestic media outlets will be banned from receiving overseas funding and dual nationals prevented from owning press or broadcasting companies. Moving on now, SpaceX has aborted the launch of Kenya's first Earth observation satellite due to bad weather. The launch director stopped the Falcon 9 rocket just 29 seconds before it blasted into space from the Vandenberg Force Base in California, U.S. The launch has now been postponed twice this week due to poor weather, and another attempt will be made on Saturday. Kenya's Taifa 1 satellite is among 51 other satellites and orbital vehicles that are scheduled to be deployed on the Transporter 7 mission. It will be used to gather data for agriculture, land, and environment monitoring. The satellite will be the 50th deployed by African nations. So far, 14 countries on the continent have sent satellites into space, with many of them opting for commercial companies like SpaceX for their launches. Well, healthy living seems to be a thing these days in South Africa, especially among older adults. A group of women in Soweto is not being left behind in this fitness game, and the women are taking responsibility to improve their indices by learning to swim. Experts say swimming is a sport which exercises most parts of the body. Take a listen.
At a public pool in South Africa's township of Soweto, novice swimmers in their golden years take deep breaths as they move forward, encouraging each other as they go. More than 40 older women who have never previously had a chance to learn how to swim go to the pool every week during the summer to face their fear of drowning and improve their health. Gabashane Molefe, 66, says she joined the class last year after her retirement.
My first time at the pool swimming, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. I couldn't float, I couldn't breathe, and my knees were so like scratches and all that. And I used to get irritated. But what I said to the coach that I am going to challenge myself, not anybody. I am my own motivator. I'm going to motivate myself.
She succeeded and now swims in the pool without floaties. Other students say swimming lessons have made them feel younger and stronger. Their swimming coach, Sibisiso Zabani, can attest to that.
They used to get tired when they walk through the gate. Now they even have a soccer club, these greenies. So it helps them with their respiratory system. So, and the blood circulation again, you know, it's very healthy for them. If their blood can circulate properly, it avoids things like strokes, short breath. So there are a lot of things that they are benefiting by swimming.
Zabane launched the initiative in 2021 when respiratory diseases were circulating among elderly because of COVID-19 pandemic. Now he's seeing his swimmers get healthier every day.
Let's take you back to an earlier story of the boat mishap in Malawi. It's been 3 days since 17 people, including 3 children, went missing after their boat capsized in the central part of the country. They were crossing the Rasta River on their way to a funeral ceremony in Chinji district. When the incident occurred, 5 people managed to swim ashore and 5 bodies were later recovered. According to a local police commander, the boat was too small for the number of passengers it was carrying. Authorities in the district are advising residents to avoid boat rides in flooded rivers. Bring you back our guest to talk about that, Malawian journalist Christy Gomani. Christy joins us from Blantyre. Hello, Christy. Earlier, I asked you to give us an update on the situation and if the government had put out any official statement about the incident and perhaps what it's doing in the aftermath of the tragedy.
Actually, the government, through the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, DODMA, were there, and they have issued a statement that 12 bodies that drowned in the river. Search is still underway as we speak. I should mention that 17 went missing, but efforts by the Marine soldiers have recovered 5 bodies as we speak. Remember that 5 managed to swim and they escaped. They were rather saved. So out of the bodies that have been found, 3 are women and the 2 are men. So that's the latest update that the government has given so far regarding the incident.
What's the condition of the 5 people who managed to swim ashore?
Actually, they were taken to the hospital where they were being treated, and so far, I think they are feeling better. But usually, when such things happen, they were like a family. So others have been lost psychologically. They must be affected, and according to authorities, they are in touch with them to make sure that the post-trauma which these people are facing or are experiencing as we speak should be treated, while the other bodies, the search for the other people is continuing.
Is this the normal mode of transportation for people, within this community?
As you might have observed that recently we had the devastating cyclone Freddy, which also affected millions of Malawians, and as a result, roads were damaged, bridges, and in most of the areas, people have resorted to using water transport. So there are some places indeed that they use water transport as their main mode of transport. Like in this case, it was nearer for these people to use that route and cheaper at the same time than to use the road transport. So all those factors being put at one place, so this is what is happening. But it's sad. I should mention that as the country is recovering from the devastating cyclone Freddy, this is also happening. So it's a threat. For instance, this is only changing the central region, but we have the tourism district of Mangoji, whereby the road connecting from the main market, or I should say the Boma, we say it in local language, to the to an area which borders Mozambique, called Makanjira. About 8 bridges have destroyed, and what they have resorted, people from those areas, if they are to be taken to the hospital, they are using a boat to another district, not to be referred to a hospital within their district, because that is cheaper and they don't have any alternative due to the cyclone Freddy that I've just talked about.
Malawian journalist Christy Gumani, thank you for your time today on Network Africa.
My pleasure.
Joshua Agbola is a 13-year-old programmer, future skills activist, and the founder of Josh for Tech, a young enterprise that provides knowledge and skill empowerment services, as well as web solutions to businesses and individuals. He is passionate about advocating for the early teaching of tech skills to young people, and he recently got certified as an Amazon Web Services cloud practitioner, becoming the youngest in Africa to achieve the feat at his age.
I am Joshua Agbola. I am a programmer, speaker, and a YouTuber, and I'm also a future skills activist, and I love tech.
Meet one of Nigeria's youngest tech CEOs, passionate about advocating for the early teaching of tech skills to young people. Joshua Bola is a young tech genius who started coding at the age of 6. Now at 13 years, he's quite comfortable programming in a number of languages and frameworks.
We're planning to go PlayStore because the platform was good.
Joshua is of the opinion that adults keep underestimating children, which is one of the reasons he says he's working hard to provide knowledge and skill empowerment services through his company, Josh for Tech. He likes to inspire young people to embrace technology and doesn't see a reason why there are age limits for children that want to be empowered.
Josh for Tech is basically a company that provides tech and knowledge skills. So what I'm actually focusing on is providing tech skills through my YouTube channel. I'm also working on creating other training services to teach young children, not just children, but also youth tech skills. On how Josh for Tech has been doing, it has been progressing in empowering individuals. I feel that most times people underestimate what kids can do. Because recently I was about to sign up for a Udacity ALX course to also improve my skills in cloud computing, and they flagged 18+. And I want kids to be able to have a type of skill that is compared to the other. I don't want kids to be restricted in what they can learn. I want them to delve deeper. I also want to help my peers.
That is the point. The point is that
Joshua's parents have been quite supportive of his tech career. His mum, Henrietta Adbola, takes us through the journey of how it all began.
Starting point was, okay, we said, oh, he likes music, so we tried to enroll him for piano lessons, and also he learned piano very early, I think from age 5 or so, started learning how to use the piano, and that also helps, with the motor ability to be able to type and all of that. So with the piano lessons, he delved also into coding. There was a time that his elder sister, who is practically 7 years older than him, had to go for a coding school. And then, since he was just 2 of them at that point, now they're 3, but he couldn't be left at home. So he had to go along with her to this coding school. And then I think it was going to be 6, 5.5 going to 6. And we had to ask them to create a curriculum for him. And they did. And that's actually the starting point of his coding career.
Despite all of Joshua's achievements, he still strives to accomplish more. After passing the AWS Cloud Practitioner test, Joshua is the youngest in Africa to get certified as an Amazon Web Services Cloud Practitioner at the age of 13.
I wondered, okay, how can someone store data in the cloud? Is it that they have a data center they're storing that they provide? And that drove my curiosity. And that made me want to learn more. It was also recently that my dad actually encouraged me to take the exam, which was the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, to actually build my knowledge into knowing about the cloud computing services. So what happened was that I entered the room, so I sat down for the exam. And so they make it so adrenaline inducing. So you sit down and they just tell you that you passed. They don't even tell you your score. You do the exam, you load screen, you have a loading screen for 15 seconds. They just show you that you passed. When I said, I was like, because the exam was not, and I didn't want to waste the money my parents spent to pay for the exam. So when I heard, I was excited.
Joshua's latest feat is one that his parents are very much proud of, and his mom speaks of his tenacity.
It's not something that you push him to do. It's something that comes out of him naturally, that he wants to research, find information, delve into things. So he's always had a very inquisitive mind. So, and I've seen that work for him so well, because even while trying to do his coding, he would try and create projects by himself. In fact, there was a time he created several projects in a row. He would just destroy them, do another one. He was always very, very inquisitive to do things. And that also helped him, because at times people think that coding is very hard. But the thing is that if you present something to a child, because they're tabula rasa, you present it to the child and you present all the information, especially him, he grabs everything, he studies, I think he's self-motivated.
Joshua Adbola sees the countless possibilities of using technology to solve so many challenges in the world. And he is determined to showcase what young people are capable of doing and to also show that there are great talents in Africa.
Such talent indeed. Well, that's it on Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.